It's time for Talking Sports, Birmingham's only weekly sports update to put you in the game. Winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. Now, here is your winning action host, Keefer, and the legend.
Happy Saturday football morning, everybody out there. Talking Sports is on the air here on ABC 3340. Got a great half hour of previews, information, entertainment. You're going to have it all right here, so stay right where you are. That voice you heard that brought us in was Tony Kurre. Hey. And now you're going to hear Tony Kurre some more because he's our guest host, special guest host.
I got a deal where since I get to introduce you guys, I'm allowed to get some FaceTime.
Hey, that's right. You know, you got to see the face.
Thank you for having me.
Tony, an iconic broadcasting legend here in Birmingham. I told you last time when you were on, you say the words classic rock. The synonym is Tony Kurre.
Yes,
that's the picture in the dictionary.
Yes, it is.
So we are thrilled to have you. We are brought to you by Birmingham Greyhound Racing, which is up and running. Well, now, since the addition of a gaming floor, it's always up and running.
I know, I love that.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Get on out and check out all of the new entertainment options. The gaming floor is rocking. It really is the missing piece of what was already a great entertainment experience. You've got the daily excitement of live greyhound racing, simulcast horse racing from all over the country, the sports parlay contest, which is a Vegas-style experience. I know you've never ventured into
No, I don't do parlays, man. I do it straight, bro. I do it straight.
Tony is straight. Yeah. That's the big headline on today's show. And the other thing now is the gaming experience on the main floor. Get on out there, check it out. You are not going to believe how much fun you can have at a day at the track. Tony, we're thrilled to have you here on the program. We're going to just have a general kind of sports conversation, but the conversation has to start with, there's so many emotions that come up when you talk about this subject, but I'm sure like everybody else, you've got a reaction to what we saw last Saturday in Starkville, the injury to Tua Tagovailoa. Give us your thoughts when you first saw it happen and today.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched enough college football and I've worked with enough college football legends and pro football legends. You're not going to pull a guy in the first half. More than likely, Tua was going to go ahead and play the first series of the second half before they hung him up. Listen, Alabama needs all the style points they can get. I know that Nick Saban's not a style guy. They were up 38-7. A lot of people thought perhaps he should have been pulled by that. But if you pull him, are you going to pull Najee, or you're going to pull Judy, or you got to win the football game. So it was an unfortunate situation. You can make the comparison to C.J. Mosley, who had the exact same injury, and he plays very well, by the way, and very healthy on Sundays. And less than 1% of all college football players actually have that. The scarier thing for me is the fact that he broke his nose, because if he broke my nose, I'd bleed to death. You know what I'm saying? So when I heard when he started bleeding from the nose, I was like, that's some serious stuff. But no, it looks like everything's good. The surgery is good, and the Cincinnati Bengals will be a great fit for him.
There you go. They don't need any personnel help. No. And you're a Cincinnati guy, so
I am, unfortunately,
you're probably kind of picturing him in that wild stripe helmet.
I think they'd actually go with Joe Burrow, though.
Well, maybe
just
right now.
And from a size standpoint, from a prototypical quarterback, a pocket guy, I think they go with Joe.
That's a tough decision, and you really can't go wrong either way, in my opinion. I've been making a point to folks and talking about this. I don't think that there would be any controversy really about Tua still being in the game. But right before they went to break on that game, in a commercial break, the announcer, who was Steve Levy, said, well, Mac Jones looks like he's coming in. Looks like Tua's day is done.
Yep.
When they came back from the commercial, Tua was in the game.
Yep.
I don't think anybody would even thought it was like, well, why is he still in there when they kind of prepped everybody for he's coming out, and then he was still in, and then it's like, well, let's see what happens. So I think maybe the broadcast had something to do with some of the angst about why was he still in the game.
And that's a good possibility, and I think one of the things too, Kip, is that the fact that Nick Saban was so distraught and so banged up, the fact that his star player was out, it was certainly wonderful to watch, to see his warmth and see his emotions and see his passion, but people don't realize this is your leader of your football team.
That's
who's going to lead this team? Mac Jones, I don't think is going to come in and demand the football team like a Tagovailoa. So you're losing not only a great football player and a Heisman Trophy hopeful guy, but you're losing a great leader.
That's right. Well, one good thing going forward, I think, Alabama's already experienced not having Tua this year. Mac Jones played the second half of the Tennessee game, the entire Arkansas game. So this is not a brand new development.
No.
And I also think that Alabama has gotten back into featuring Najee Harris. I think they had gotten away from that a little bit. This guy is a superstar. I mean, he took over the LSU game. The only reason they came back in that game and made a game of it was because of Najee Harris. And I think you're going to see a little bit of a retooling of the Alabama approach, maybe go to a more conventional, pound the ball kind of approach, but they've still got the great receivers. Losing Tua is a terrible blow, but I don't think it's a death blow to this team.
Interesting enough, though, before the Tua Tagovailoa injury, 51% pass, 49% run. Since Mac came in, 51% pass, 49% run. You just got to have to see the playmakers step it up. Play your role, win your box, like Nick Saban says, do your thing. They're not going to ask Mac Jones to win the football game. They certainly want to do that this Saturday. Now, the Auburn game may be a little different.
Yes.
But, I mean, just stay within yourself. Don't lose the football game for us. I hate the word game manager, but be that guy.
That's right.
Distribute the ball to your playmakers, and you'll be fine.
Well, it's kind of cool, and we'll move on. But I heard Lane Kiffin make a comment last week of Mac Jones is a guy he recruited his last year here as offensive coordinator. He said this guy is underappreciated. He says he's Jake Fromm-like in his approach to the game and the way he sees things. So Mac Jones is maybe not that big a step back. We'll see. It's a great opportunity for him in the shadow of a terrible adversity for Tua. Real quick here, we only got about 45 seconds. Let's talk about Auburn and where they are. They've got 3 losses. They're ranked 15th in the poll, but they've lost to the number 1, the number 4, and then the number 7 team, and they beat the number 6 team in the poll. I think Auburn is being kind of disregarded. I think their body work's pretty impressive.
Well, I think it's some of the same old, Kip, and for the fact that 7 years now, Gus Malzahn's been there. This year will be the 5th season. He's either won 7 or 8 games. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. You can't do that 5 to 7 years, and I think it goes.
We're going to talk more about that in our next segment. Kip and Tony Kurre on Talking Sports. Stay right where you are. Welcome back, everybody. It's Talking Sports. Special guest host today. We're honored to have the one, the only, the man, the myth, Tony Kurre.
I am honored to be here. Thank you.
We are having a great time just talking sports. Tony, I got to tell you, this segment of our show is brought to you by Chemco, which is kind of the Swiss Army knife of Alabama companies, because these guys can come into your business, your plant, your facility, and they do it all. These guys are like multi-purpose, just the ultimate guys to call if you have any needs. We had Herb Winches on the show a couple weeks ago. We popped the Chemco ad up, and he said, I've had them do work on my restaurant. These guys can do it all. Give them a call today. Family-owned company, great operation. Chemco, proud to have them as a sponsor here on Talking Sports.
We need to do a show on Herb Winches and Tony Kurre international version, because I've been to 4 Olympics with Herb Winches. I could tell some stories.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, some rich stories.
Well,
maybe about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Football
if we had a show
season's
1 o'clock in the
winding
morning.
down. Maybe we need to reformat the show and the rest of the story.
We got some great stories.
But yeah, I think that's a fascinating idea.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony, real quick, I want to give a shout out because a lot of folks are not cognizant of this, but I think it really deserves some recognition. A school from right here in Birmingham is only one of 8 teams selected to play in the Division II NCAA football playoffs. Miles College, outstanding job, guys. They beat Albany State last week to win their conference, then sweated it out last Sunday. It's like the NCAA basketball thing. Yep. They only announced 8 teams that are going. They're the 7th seeded team. They play Lenore Rhine, which I'm sure you're very familiar with.
I dated a girl named Lenore Rhine. Back in high school, it was great.
Speaking of expose shows.
Yes. She was one of my as well, too. So
Lenore Rhine today up in North Carolina. Good luck to the Golden Bears. Bring home a winner. Very, very great accomplishment for a school right here from Birmingham.
Very nice. Keep it up.
Okay, let's take a look at the college football playoff poll. First of all, Tony, before we get into the details of how the rankings are, and they didn't change very much from last week, what's your opinion of the current system? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? What would you change?
Yeah, I mean, the new system, if there is going to be a new system, will come into play after the 2023 season. I'd like to see 6 teams. I think 8's too much. I'd like to see 6 teams with the top 2 teams getting a bye and let the other 4 play out. And people are like, it would be adding another game. Well, it would be for those 4 teams. Yeah. Get the bye game and you'd be fine. We're already at 15, 16 games. So
that's right.
I don't think it'd be an issue. I think that way you can include some of those conference champions. I just don't want a 3-loss conference championship winner.
That's
I don't want that. I do want the 6 best teams, but I think, this particular year as well, Alabama would not be sweating as much as they are right now if you had the top 6 teams. But I like the system. I like the transparency. I'm not real crazy about having to reclude yourself and leave the room if one of your. I think it's ridiculous. I think we're all adults here. I think we can figure out whether if you're the Oregon AD, whether you think your team should be in the top 4 or not. But yeah, I think it works right now, and for right now, we'll see what happens till 2023.
Well, I know this is kind of an outrageous idea and it will never happen. But I feel like, okay, athletic directors, former coaches, all that, but all of them have different biases. And you got to even question some ADs who are more bureaucrats, absolute knowledge of the game. It is all based on analytics and statistics, and I guess, we even had Condoleezza Rice on that committee for a while, who could probably analyze data better than anybody.
Sure.
But you know what's missing from that committee that it will never happen, but will really make this thing completely legitimate to me? Who are bigger experts on the quality of teams and where they rank and how they compare to each other than the guys out in the desert? Two of those seats should be filled by experts on college football that set those numbers every week. Of course, it never happened because we don't have gambling involved in football.
I totally agree with you. And I mean, if you really wanted to find out who the 4 best teams are, find out which 4 teams would be favored in their ball games throughout the playoff systems. You're not going to have that happen, but that's certainly something that should be in the middle of that. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, and that sets up my point is if you look at these statistics, these standings, this is supposed to be a reflection of the best teams in order. Mm-hmm. They say they do it every week. They start over based on the body of work. I look at this poll, and maybe I'm just an SEC homer. I give Oregon and Utah credit for the seasons they're having, but I have to ask the question, is wins in the Pac-12 equivalent to even Auburn losses or Florida losses against the top teams in the country?
I think it is when it comes to Oregon and Utah this year. Obviously, the cream of the crop. Utah's loss to USC certainly going to hurt them. Oregon should have beaten Auburn. They were leading that game the entire game into the last 9 seconds of the game. I know woulda, shoulda, coulda. I get that. But you look at what Oregon's done right now. They beat Utah. I think that Pac-12 champion is going to probably get in the playoffs. And I think it probably does not bode very well for Alabama just because there's so many different scenarios where teams can either catapult them or win in front of them. I think the Georgia A&M game this weekend is really interesting in that A&M's lost to 3 teams. 2 number ones and a top 10 Auburn squad. They're a 13-point dog to Georgia this weekend. If Georgia loses to A&M yet wins the SEC, do they get in as a 2-loss team? I think they do. It's amazing. So, I mean, there's so many different situations where teams can get in before Alabama. It does not help Nick Saban's squad to be playing a Western Carolina this weekend and then potentially an all-out Auburn 4-loss squad in the Iron Bowl.
Well, it's amazing to me if you look at, again, they're saying it's body of work. Yes, Clemson's undefeated. They're blowing everybody out. There's not a single ACC team in the top 25 except for Clemson. The best win they have this year is over 3-loss Texas A&M.
Yep, and you could make the same argument for Alabama.
Yes, that's their best win.
Until, of course, they beat Auburn, or if they beat Auburn.
Well, we're going to talk about that in the next segment because it's never too early to talk about the Iron Bowl.
Never.
Especially when it's just 7 days away,
exactly.
Or 8 days, I guess, counting today. Okay, so we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, Tony and I are going to get into the schedule. It's my least favorite weekend of the year for the SEC because it's National Pastry Week. We will talk about that and a whole lot more, so stay with us. It's Talking Sports. Welcome back, everybody. Talking Sports. Kip Keefer, Tony Kurre filling in for the legend this week. And we are talking sports. We're talking college football, which is, I know, one of Tony's favorite subjects, and certainly right in my top 2. We are rolling along here. I've got to tell you, this segment is sponsored by a fabulous company, Craneworks. All this construction, all these projects you see downtown, all this giant equipment, 99% chance it came from this great company who have been a great supporter of sports in this town for many, many years. Craneworks used to sponsor segments with coaches and different shows.
Can I tell you something?
I'm sure you've got some Craneworks.
I hired Craneworks about 8 years ago to
help
me hang Christmas lights. They brought a crane out.
Really?
They brought a crane out to my house, and I was hanging Christmas lights 50, 60 feet up in trees.
Now, is this a big-time guy or what?
Well, my neighbors weren't too crazy about it, right? It was a Griswold thing, but I was like, I got a crane, so I hung lights everywhere. It was awesome.
Can I call you Clark the rest of the show?
Absolutely.
So there you go. Just like a couple weeks ago when Herb Winchell said he's used Kimco on his restaurant, now we got Tony using Craneworks.
Yes.
So it tells you exactly what these companies are made of. Craneworks, one of the great sponsors of Talking Sports. Tony, let's move on to this weekend's cupcake schedule. Let's talk about the smorgasbord. We've got Western Carolina. We got Samford. No disrespect to the guys right across town here.
School, that's good.
That's good. But we've also got Abilene Christian.
Yes.
Tennessee Martin.
Yes.
And the pièce de résistance, East Tennessee State.
Yep.
Those are all on the platter for SEC teams this week. I hate these games, Tony. I think they're totally pointless. I wish something could happen that would eliminate these kind of games.
Well, it's either a homecoming game or a senior night game, and I understand. And normally this time of the year, your table's pretty set. Alabama thinks they're in, Auburn thinks they're in, Clemson thinks they're in, and this is the weekend where you get healthy, you get some players that get some nicks and some banged up arms, repaired, whatever. In this particular case, though, it does not bode well for an Alabama that needs to get all kinds of points they could possibly get. This may be a situation where, regardless of what the score is, it doesn't help them at all. Now they have to wait for the Auburn game to get any types of style points at all. So, yeah, and it's a bummer for the fan. For the fan, you just don't want to see that game. You don't.
There's so much money involved, so much commitment to go and spend your entire
day. It reinforces the whole idea that Alabama had just an absolutely ridiculously easy schedule this year. It really does.
It's amazing. Yeah. And again, it's in a lot of ways no fault of their own. You schedule so far in advance, you don't know that a Southern Mississippi or, I think a New Mexico State's not going to ever be any good. Anyway, that's in the topic for another day. There are some legitimate games today. There's 3 pretty high-profile games. You made reference to one of those. Tough spot, in my opinion, for Georgia. They had to come up with a heroic effort, a tough place to win last week at Jordan-Hare. They got it done. Now they come home to play Texas A&M. And in the immortal words of Mike Tyson, they ain't got nothing to lose.
No.
I think A&M's going to be a handful for Georgia today.
I totally agree, and we mentioned this earlier. They've lost to number 1 Alabama. They lost to number 1 Clemson. And of course, they lost to a top 10 Auburn team. At the same time, you didn't bring Jimbo Fisher in to lose 3 or 4 games a year.
They
brought him in to win a national title. He's already done it once, done it at FSU. So this may be kind of a little tricky game here for the Georgia Bulldogs. And again, I don't think they're looking ahead. I just mentioned I think Georgia could lose this game and still win the SEC and get a shot in just based on their wins over Notre Dame and over Auburn and some of the other big games they had in Florida as well. But yeah, it could be a little bit of a tricky spot for the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah, so from a wagering standpoint, I can't give 2 touchdowns in this game. I'd have to go the other way.
Yeah, if I can get up to 14.5, I'm with you.
Tony's in.
I'm with you.
All right, the other 2 games in the league, this is an embarrassment. You're Barry Lunney Jr. He is the interim coach for Arkansas when they fired Chad Morris.
I'm going, where's Houston Nutt? Is he coming or not?
Exactly.
Where's Houston Nutt? The fact that Houston Nutt even brought that up,
so,
I'm like, dude, how pathetic
guess
is that?
what, Barry? Take the team to Baton Rouge, play the number 1 team in the country for your debut. 43.5 points is the line. In a conference game, it's ridiculous.
Just try to get your players home with all their limbs.
Oh, my
That's what
goodness.
You're gonna do. Yeah.
Arkansas, what a dumpster fire. This was a once proud program.
But Gus Malzahn will get that program back to prominence in 3 or 4 years.
That's the big swirling rumor. That
it ain't a swirling
Gus
rumor, my friend. It ain't a
list.
swirling rumor. I think they were throwing the Houston nothing out just to maybe get him to go, wait a minute, but I don't think he really cares.
So that one is not a game I'm really looking forward to. Let's go ahead and toss Arkansas into that cupcake crowd because that's basically what they've become. They got drilled by Western Kentucky at home.
I like Coach Chad. I thought he was going to be a good fit there. I think it's his only second year, so I don't know if he had enough time to do that. The cupboard was bare when he got there, but I really liked what he had done in his previous coaching position, and I thought he was a good hire, but you can't do it in the second year there.
Another interesting game, not very many big implications. The other SEC game today, Tennessee, who's resurgent, trying to get to bowl territory, at Missouri, who has lost 4 in a row. But they've had a tough slate here lately, too, losing to Georgia and Florida back-to-back. They're at home. They're a 4.5-point favorite. I'm kind of going to get back in the Missouri camp. I think they're going to get their stuff together at home, and Tennessee's been kind of pulling some Houdini wins. I'm kind of thinking they're due to get taken out.
I like Tennessee on this side.
Okay, we got a difference.
Listen, 4 or 5 weeks ago, we were talking about Jeremy Pruitt being one of those 6 coaches in their second year getting fired. I think he's got his guys playing really hard. I watch them year in and year out. They've won 4 of their last 5. You mentioned Missouri's lost 4 of their last 5. I like them in this spot. They get it done against Kentucky this past week as an underdog, but I think they're going to get it done.
It's going to be a good game. We got one more segment to go. Going to ask Tony for some personal reflections and so you can get up close and personal with this legend of broadcasting here. We're looking forward to bringing you the final segment. Time is just flying here.
I know it. I love it. Let's do another one.
All right. Yeah. Could we have an extra half hour? We'll be back on Talking Sports right after this short timeout. Talking Sports is back. Kip Keefer with our special guest host, Tony Kurre. If you're just tuning in, where have you been? We've analyzed everything in college football.
Go back and watch it again. It's great.
That's right. It will be posted shortly on talkingsports.info if you're just tuning in. Yeah. All right, we're sponsored on this segment by M&M Electric, another great company. We have just fantastic sponsors. Like the legend always says, don't do it yourself, you'll get fried. Call the professionals. Are you pretty handy around the electrical stuff?
As a matter of fact, I have an oven. It's on the blink right now, and I'm being told it's my 220, so I need to call M&M Electric.
Yeah, absolutely. Great company, a father-son operation. They will come out and do the job. Give them a call today if you have any electrical needs. Like the legend says, don't get fried. Call M&M. Okay, Tony, I want to give people the opportunity to get to know you and your perspectives. You've certainly been on the air for a long time, but I don't know if anybody's ever asked you this specific question. Sports memories, sports experience. If I say what's your greatest, the thing that comes to mind, what would you say?
I've got two real quick.
Good.
1990, Gene Stallings' first year sitting on the billboard. There's a guy up in Cincinnati right now. He's on top of his own restaurant. He's got a 50-inch television. He's got a cot. He's got his own shower. He's got everything. He's staying up there. The Bengals win a football game. Now he's saying at the end of the season, if they're 0-16, he's going to come down and go back up. No! Stunts got to hurt. You got to be in pain when you do stunts. I had 18 inches of scaffolding. I had 95-degree weather at night. I had 45-degree weather during the day. I toughed it out. I made it through 21 days. Thank God for Vanderbilt. The other one is I went to the Rose Bowl, Alabama, Texas.
Oh, good.
And thought I was in the bathroom line, but I was in the hot dog line. And for some reason that sticks, and I stood in line for an hour and a half. And I just said, forget it, and just let it rip. And I don't think I saw the second half. I think I went back and forth between the hot dog and the bathroom line the entire second half. I really don't. Did someone get hurt in that game? I'm not sure. I just went back and forth. I get in this line, I go this line. That way, at least I knew I was going to either be hungry or relieved.
Now, I'm sure those are exactly the sports memories that you expected.
Two biggest of my life.
That is outstanding. The billboard thing, 21 days.
21 days.
Now, and this guy in Cincinnati has facilities, TVs.
He's on top of his own restaurant.
Okay, come on.
Now, he is raising money for a charity, which is something I didn't do. But I had 18 inches of scaffolding. It was 30 feet in the air. I had a Jesus hook on the whole 9 yards. They had lost to Southern Miss. They lost to Georgia. Then they lost to Florida. After the Southern Miss loss, I thought for sure it was going to be done in 4 days. They lost that game. Certainly they'll beat Florida. Then they lost that game. And again, thank goodness for Vanderbilt. And, of course, 2 years later, Gene Stallings' national championship.
How about that? 21 days. I was not aware of that achievement. We like to give out some picks in the National Football League, and I've got your hometown team who's winless. I think I'm going to get him down from the roof. Yep. I think they break through. The Steelers really had a deflating loss last Thursday night. I don't think they really have much left to play for. I think the Bengals, because of that being such a big rivalry, I love, Tony, in the NFL, home dogs. I love getting points with home teams. So I've got an exclusive home dog parlay for you here, including the Bengals.
I love it.
Catching 6.5 against Pittsburgh. I also like those the other games that are listed there. They're all home dogs. The Rams hosting Lamar Jackson and the Ravens.
I like all three of these.
Yeah,
because they're all smelly fishes.
Yeah, I really like. I even howl when I home dogs. Yeah. So get on board. That's the picks for this week. All right, you've got a lot going on. I want to give you the opportunity here in our last minute and a half to talk about everything happening with Tony Kurre.
I've worked in classic rock and sports radio all over the country. I've been in Charlotte, been in Louisville, been out west, been up north, everywhere else. And so I decided to start my own classic rock station. I'm going to play my own music. I'm going to do it my own way. That's going to take care of our clients and take care of the classic rock listeners. Called K-Cast Radio. It's it's called K-Cast Radio. We started about 4 months ago. We're now into phase 2 of making this happen. It's going to be a full-service situation. So 2020 is going to be an absolute monster year. It's the greatest classic rock. And my good radio partner, Dr. Josh Claypo, is a clinical psychologist. Our show's so screwed up, we need a clinical psychologist on staff. So I get therapy 3 hours every day. But we do our show from 7 to 9 every morning. We do a best of show at 2. And it's classic rock the rest of the day. It's K-Cast Radio. Check it out.
Fantastic. Tony Kurre, thank you so much. We got to run, everybody. Enjoy all the games. We'll see you next Saturday.